Welcome back to the Air Crown Crypto channel. Today, I'm joined by my very special friend, Mr. FiboSwanny, as he's very likely known. And of course, you can always find him, as I'll let you know, in Twitter and actually just Twitter. Is that right?
Pretty much, and TradingView, of course. But yeah,
Right on.
Twitter's
And we'll have
my main one.
absolutely, and we'll have links to that in the description below. But I'm just going to hand it over to you, Mr. Swanny. You've been here a couple times now. You've been having this ongoing sort of narrative with the market, and let's follow up on that because that has been incredibly enlightening for the past few months here.
Yeah, no, thanks, Eric, for having me. I'm looking forward to seeing if any of our stuffs match up, and
right on.
Hopefully, it does. That'll give me some comfort to get in and out, right?
Indeed.
Let me share my screen and we'll get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pretty much just look over Bitcoin and kind of look at the different time frames and kind of get a feel for what's going on. I'm going to start out with the 4 hour here, and I'm going to basically get people familiar with what I'm looking at for anybody that hasn't seen my stuff yet. But one of the main things that I do, I created a thing called what I call basically my Fibonacci theory. It's a threshold theory, and where I get that name threshold from is I go back historically and I build bull and bear zones on the RSI to give me a sense of direction in the market. But then I also use the ADX, and then I also use Fibs, of course, to figure out what's going on in the markets. So the easy thing is the Fibs. The hardest thing is to find the zones. That's where it's an art and a science, right? So you can get your mathematical formulas in there, but there is some experience and some manual techniques to kind of get those zones nailed down. And once you get those zones nailed down, it's a pretty good, nice little tool to use in the long run because it really helps out. So when you see the RSI on all these different time zones, you're going to see the red zones as bear zone and the green zones as bull zones. And so this is what was happening on the 4 hour. If you were following me, months ago, when this went into the bear zone back in November here, we went into the bear zone right in this point. So if you're following me on this system, basically the Fib would start here. And of course the market went up a little bit at this point, but as you can see down here, it never broke back up into the bull zone. So it stayed bearish. So as this market starts to work down, so in other words, if you were long and you were trading this market and it went up to 69, this market right here would be telling you to sell and get out. So you would be taking profit. Now, did you hit the top? No, but you're definitely following that trend, and that's the main thing. So you would have been getting out at this point. So now what we've been doing is we've been following this down, and if you wanted to take this and use the short side, you can. So every time this Fib comes down, comes back up, test this area, 38.2, 61.8 right in here. Maybe this would be a sell spot, and then you kind of keep taking the Fibs down. And then it gets up into this area. Maybe it's another sell spot. And then it works its way down to this point here. All this time it stayed in the bear zone, touched it a few times right in here. And it never
basically what you're doing, just so that I can kind of make sure that the audience is also on track as well, is that once you find a trend, then you're pulling those Fibs and you're basically looking for that trending movement to find its, in this case, in a downtrend, its highs around the 382 Fib retracement. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Okay. Working the short side here. So basically, if you got in here and it worked its way down to this low and it pops up, it actually went all the way up to the 61.8% level right here. But this is where these zones come in and are really important because when these candles settled, the RSI never clicked back up into the bull zone.
So that tells you it's just a failed rally. It's just another continuation.
Yeah, and if you wanted to play, if you wanted to continue your short, that would make sense. So you would want to continue the short to the downside. So now when it comes down to this low, you got this 38.2% level right in here, and as you can see, still well into the bear zone and continues in the bear zone for a while. We got into this area consolidation. but then we clicked into the bull zone just a little bit right here. And then so what I do next is, if going into the bull zone, if you were short, this is where you would want to go long, and then it pops back up. So what the next thing I would do is I'd be looking at these fib extensions, but really it never. The next sell was this previous high right here, because it came down and then it popped, and then this was the first spot to watch, to sell, and then maybe continue on. But it stayed in the bull zone, but never really got anywhere, and then kind of took off. And then what it did was it clicked back into the bear zone right here. So that's one thing that I like about my system, because if I just kind of follow it, if you're getting in and you're wrong, typically it's going to be pretty close to a break even, or maybe you're going to get out pretty quickly. And just like any trend type deal, you want a system that reduces the losses and ride into trends, right? So that's one of the things I wanted to get kind of established. So now this is where we're at. On the 4 hour, we clicked into the bear zone again, and have worked our way down. And so far, this point right here at this threshold into the bear zone has hit down at this low, and has come up and actually hit the shallow fib again right at this point. And I mean, it got super close to getting into the bull zone the other day, or yesterday, I think, or a couple days ago. And I mean, I was getting ready to buy. I mean, it was getting pretty close. But it clicked negative, or not negative, but it stayed in the bear zone. And so this would be another sell. And then we're working our way back down to the downside again as we're in the bear zone. Now, another thing I use is these fib extensions. So in other words, when we go into this bear move here, as the price makes new lows, I want to take the fib extension off of this low here, and then off the high. So in other words, you're just basically looking at the extension if it makes a new low, and it did, and it touched right at this 127. It kind of this is the fib extension zone that I like, is the 127 to 141, and right in that fib extension is where selling could be, or buying could come in. Buying came in right at that point, which was interesting because that 127 matches up with that previous low at what, 39 or so. So that was an area to kind of watch on that point too. So given that together with the fib extension, definitely gave some buying interest. But it just popped us up into a point that we're still kind of in this bear zone. So I'm still playing it and not really going long just yet, because I play my system. And right now it's not quite giving me the signals I'd like to see. So I just been kind of, I've been busy at work on my day job, so I really haven't been playing the short side very much. But if you are playing the short side, you're doing well, based on this.
It's been a good couple months.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So anybody that's been playing the short side on this has been doing pretty good. So that's the 4 hour, given that I feel like we can still have that downside back to this fib extension, and maybe even further. And that's where the daily kind of comes into play. So as I pop over to the daily here, one of the things you were showing earlier this morning was this zone in here, and then also this zone right here. One of the things that I'm looking at, and of course we're in the bearish zone on the daily. So if you're following the longer term, the daily clicked bearish here, so you would have been getting out around 60, 59, 60,000 right there, and working your way to the downside, and it's been bearish since. Same zone is on the 4 hour right here, on the fib extension. And the reason I haven't looked to the next extension is because it hasn't broke this low. So like if it does break that low, I would actually use this as the next extension here, to where the 27 to 31 comes into play. But we're not quite there yet. So we got to kind of keep our minds open for this next area right in here as your next buy area, or possibly a little bit lower. And I actually like the 35. I have an order in at 35.6, just sitting there in case this thing drops down into this area. And the reason I like that is I mean this isn't rocket science or anything. I just kind of noticed this, But when this 21 exponential moving average crossed over through both of these right here, from this crossover point to the low, it was a 27% drop from that point to the low. And then we had the crossover here. And then the crossover on the red is the one I'm looking at on the on the 233. From that point to 27% is right here at 35.
Very interesting.
Yeah, right there, which I really like because that is that's my fib threshold spot right there. Because so to me, this bull zone right at this point is where the psychology for me changed in the market. So that's what I'm trying to measure, is where the big psychology changes are. So that, to me, this level right in here, along with this possible drop to 35 or so, matches this crossover. Not to say this 27% is like golden and it should do it and all that kind of stuff, but it was just kind of interesting when that kind of crossed over there. A couple of things happened. We made new lows. I know I use Elliott Wave for a guide. I don't really trade on it, but once it made this low below this one right here, it negated the upside motive wave that I had counted. But once this broke right here, this put us into an ABC correction. And the interesting thing is if you look at the fib level on this at the 61.8% for this possible C level, it puts us right at that 35.6 level right here, which also is the trend line off of these lows.
Very interesting.
So to me, I like this spot right here as a possible buy spot. So that's the spot I've been waiting for. Not that I'm trying to pick a bottom, but that's my next area that
high probability of a bounce, certainly. Well, I shouldn't say certainly, but very high probability. But that is really interesting, Matt, because I do have a couple of points of confluence just from my own analysis as well. It's very close, of course, to the CME gap, a little bit higher than it, but close enough is close enough. And then the big one for me, and something that has been a 100% hit rate, is that every time we've seen a quarterly reversal on Bitcoin, there's always been a backfill on that quarterly open every fucking time, going back to 2010, I believe. And that would be literally just like a few bucks above $35,000. So I thought that was really, really interesting. But yeah, man, go ahead.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's good to know. So where did you say the CMA gap's at?
It's like $34,000.
Okay,
but
so maybe even a wick down.
Maybe, and also with the discount, I mean, who knows at that point, it might be about same as a spot at 35 anyway. So
okay,
I think
cool.
It's already trading at a little bit of a discount.
All right, nice, good to know. So that's where I'm kind of at on the daily. Just kind of following this trend. I haven't really been doing much. I mean, this is the kind of market where patience is tested. This is right. I call it, unless you're playing the short side, you're sitting on the sidelines. I'm hoping, instead of trying to keep digging in here and trying to find spots. So that's why I kind of just stick to my plan and just wait, and patience is key. I know it sucks sometimes and it's boring and all that, but in the long run, you'll be better for it and you'll be able to trade another day. That's the way I kind of look at it. So that's the kind of area I'm looking at on there. So of course I'm not trading. I'm just using this as a guide. I always say that on Elliott Wave because people get kind of all like, Elliott Wave's so subjective, and yeah, of course it is. I just use it as kind of a guide. Now here's where the hopium comes in. This is my weekly chart, and this is the latest threshold on the weekly that I had based on my system. And this one's been, and I just want to kind of highlight this whole bull zone that we've been in. And the interesting thing is, I saw a couple of things that I like. And of course we tested this bottom of this bull zone so far a couple of times here. And that's why I kind of highlighted them there. Now, if this breaks down, then you're looking at, low 20s, that kind of thing.
Right.
So that's why I really minimum would be 31 on the 61.8% level. But I think if this weekly breaks down, you could get all the way back down to these moving averages in the low 20s. I don't want that to happen. Not going to say it's going to happen, but we're going to see. But what I was looking at here is that I was looking at this moving average here. I don't even know which one this is. I think it's
looks like a 55.
Yeah, that's probably what it is. But what happened was if you were looking at this, and let's move the fib to where this high was at the time. It's not much different, but So bull zone comes down and tests this moving average here. And of course, we're at the bottom of the bull zone, does not click to the bear zone on this red candle right here that actually goes underneath and closes underneath the moving average. So, but the next candle actually made a newer low and then pops up and closes above it. And that's what kept us in there. So if you kind of go to where we are today, same kind of thing. We're just testing the bottom of this. The red candle closed underneath the moving average and held this zone. And now are we going to pop back above here and get the same kind of scenario we had here to pop us back to the upside? So far, that's what's happening. And of course, you have to wait to the end of the week to get the data to see if this is going to click into the bear zone or not. And we do have a couple more days. But right now, it's showing some signs of hope. So in other words, we could bounce from here and actually start to get this thing rolling back to the upside.
And to be fair, CME weekly closes today too. So, as long as there's not just a massive fucking nuke before end of day here, it should be okay. Yeah, and one of the things that I kind of one of the things that I learned from my mentor when I was first kind of beginning was when you see, especially on a higher term time frame like this, the weekly or a daily, when you see price action kind of, just breaking below a major moving average like that being the 55, and it kind of hangs there for maybe 1, 2, maybe even 3 closes, but not really fully breaks down. Those are trappy situations a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's why I'm just kind of waiting it out here. I don't want to go long just yet. Just because when you look at the 4 hour and you look at the daily, or I mean the 4 hour and then daily,
hard to love.
Yeah, it's hard to love it. Yeah, exactly. But this is my last little ditch hope. Now, if we actually get above this moving average and close, maybe I don't know. Maybe I will dabble in and start going long a little bit. But until then, I still kind of want to wait. My main goal is I want to get a bear zone on the 4 hour. Or a bull zone on the 4 hour. That will definitely signal a buy for me. Another thing I was looking for was like when it dipped down here and it actually went below my bear zone and then came back up right here. That's a buy signal for me. I think there was another one back here. So there was another one that hit back here. And then popped up. And it's these wicks down that basically were major trend changes. Or not really major, but kind of gave it a little bit of reversal.
Major washouts.
yeah, basically. But we had this kind of a washout here, but it never went back below here. So that's an interesting thing too. So I was looking for either that, I was looking for a new bull zone to buy, or buying in this zone. I didn't buy this point right here. I probably would have bought if it got down to the bottom of the zone and bounced. I probably would have bought that. But it never really got down into the bottom of that Fib extension. So that's where I'm at there. So last ditch on hopium here. So when you look at the timing here,
alrighty.
I'm looking at the weekly on this one, and this level right here, we closed once below here. Probably can't see it. Let me blow it up. What I'm looking at here is 3 consecutive settles underneath this point. So we got the first one. The second one will probably close underneath here because we'd have to get it back unless it gets back above.
You're looking like somewhere about 46. Is that right?
Yeah, to get back above there.
Okay.
But then it's that third week that would really matter to me. Is that it would bring in the next line, which would bring us down to that 35 that I like. So I'm kind of looking at that 35 level as this possibility. Now, on this weekly, if this gets back up and holds, it could hold this week and still be in the bull zone. But that third week, maybe it breaks into the bear zone, and then it awakens this back up. And if it really gets all shitty, then you're talking all the way back down into low 20s if it breaks this level and keeps this trend. And this trend's just basically, I just drew it from this trend, just kind of watching.
Right.
Nothing scientific. But I was just kind of looking at this this move down to the intersection here, and it's about 35 that I like on that. So that's where I'm at on kind of the timing aspect. I mean, we can look at the monthly and the timing aspects of these. The Fib timing on this really gives us a major low in 2024.
Very interesting.
because this is where the lows are happening on the fibs here. But there's also a low here in September of 22 on the timing. So does it break this 61.8% and we worked our way down to 28 all the way into September and we just have a shitty year? Or do we hold here and it pops back up and we get a high and then this comes down and makes a low? I don't know. That's why I just gotta kind of play it out. Right. So a couple of things. You know, there's a trend line that you know, I always take trend lines from usually a break point of a high or low. So if you take this trend line right here, you know, from the break point to this low, you know, you're looking at, you know, 30s, 36,
still mid 30s.
Yeah, in those 30s. But you know, we just got it right now. We're kind of in that I call liminal space, and it's that 3-day rule or three period rule. I mean, this is a monthly, so I always like to look at things on a 3-day or 3-time. Where's that one chart at? Yeah, like this here. I want to see 3 settles below this moving average, or a move into the bear zone. Most likely, if we get 3 underneath here, it'll probably click into the bear zone. But I like that 3 period rule. And while we're in that 3 period rule, I call it kind of liminal space. It's when emotions run really wide and everyone's like, "Oh shit, what do I do? Do I buy? Do I sell? Oh my gosh, what do I do?" To me, I sit on
buy every little 1% move down and pray to the gods.
yeah, exactly. So right now, when you look at something like this, I'm kind of in that liminal space of really not wanting to do anything. So I'm kind of still sitting sidelines, still bearish on the 4-hour daily. Got that last ditch hopium on the weekly. I'm really hoping that it holds and pops back up and kind of work from there. I actually threw the annual on here, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. And one of the lines in the sand, of course, is this 28K area, right? Because if you look back at this annual and it goes up the low and the high, the Fibonacci levels on this, the 61.8% level is right here, which isn't showing up, which I don't know why I can't see it. But if it breaks the 61.8% level from this point, the low here went down 65%. Right. Yeah. And then from this low to the high, once it broke the 61.8% level right here and made a low, it went almost 60%. Now, the one we're on right now is where we're at. We're on the shallow fib at the moment, and we're just testing it. So, like, if that weekly breaks down, that's where these 28K and low 20s come into play as that next level. But it hasn't done it yet, so we could get the little bit of hopium, and this could be the low, and then we start popping up from here. But if the weekly breaks down, that's where this 28K comes into play. But I'll tell you right now, you don't want this to break because 60% from that freaking level is ugly as shit.
Yeah, kiss the market goodbye for a while.
Yeah, exactly. So to me, this whole zone in here from 28 to where we are is that's where the risk is. And that's why I've been waiting for the bull signals before I do anything, because we could see those low 20s. I mean, we really could, based on charts. So hopefully this is helpful. Going through all the different time frames, showing you where I'm at, using the fibs as the guides, as a tool. That's really what I like to tell people. You know, I'm not trying to say that this is the best all strategy ever. But it is something that really works well with other strategies. So if you have your book and you're following something like this and it's in confluence with what you're looking at, it's got a pretty high probability of working. I've been doing this a long time, so I wouldn't just.
I've been watching it in conjunction with my own strategies, and it's actually added a lot. I've increased my hit rate quite a few bit just by like kind of employing some of your techniques right here. It's really, really useful. Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, I just come at it a different way. I did a lot of the different algorithms for years and, you know, all that kind of stuff. And not to say it's bad, but I really, really took a liking to using Fibonacci. And really what I'm doing is it's all about proportion to me. I don't give a shit what the price is. Yeah. I really just it's all about proportion. And to me, as long as there's fear and greed in the market, those proportions are going to be there. And that's what I use as the tool, is to find those proportions and work off of them.
Well, I suppose that makes 100% sense. I mean, you're basically just charting human emotions and then relating it in terms of mathematics using these tools.
Yeah, That's what I'm doing. I'm basically trying to measure where those major psychology changes are. I know it's not the easiest thing in the world because behavioral analysis is, you know, if you take finance and take behavioral finance, it's tricky stuff. But I've been trying to find a simple way that people can. That's why I use the RSI. I use the ADX. These are simple things that when you first start today, I found over the years, you know, simplicity starts to make sense. And so the more you simplify something and you're comfortable with the plan that's in place, your trading gets a lot more easier because you're not banging your head against the wall.
I mean, that's really the crux of any trading plan. Like it needs to be super fucking obvious, you know, like extremely obvious, you know. When people get into like these very nuanced situations, it's not helpful, and it just adds to analysis paralysis. So that's what I really like about your system as well. It's like, you know exactly what you should be doing at all times, assuming that you understand the system to begin with, which of course has its own nuances. But
when someone first sees it, they're probably like, "What the hell is that?" I mean, the toughest thing is to find the bull and bear zones, and that's I do try to show people how to do it, and this is where experience kind of comes into play, and it's a tough thing to kind of teach, but I kind of give the basics on how to figure out your own bear and bull zones. It just takes some work, but once you get those bull and bear zones down, it works really well, and you know it just takes some trial and error, just like anything else. And once you finally get it down, it's not foolproof, but you know, if you back test it and it works over time, you know, run with it. And so far it's been working pretty well. So got to keep it going. Right.
Right on. Do you have anything else for Bitcoin, or do you want to check out?
I think that's about it. Unless you have any questions for me, I can throw it out and, you know, look at something, but
I'd like to see your analysis on Ethereum, just because whenever I'm kind of, you know, in a little bit of a neutralish stance on I mean, obviously Bitcoin's bearish on all time frames up to that weekly, but whenever I'm like kind of neutralish on the macro, I kind of like to look at some of the other majors just to see how are they, you know, are they showing a little bit of strength? Are they not? And Ethereum just looks sad.
Yeah. Here's Ethereum. Let's make sure it's all.
I think the hopium right now is that on the 4 hour, you know, it's gonna try to set in a higher low there. It looks like you have your bull zone already up. So
yeah,
you know, if it can just, you know, dig in somewhere around like low 3,000, I suppose that'd be okay. But man,
yeah, this one actually clicked into the bull zone the other day right here. So you'd actually be long right at this point. So you're basically probably long at about. I bought it. I actually bought it 32.75. I think.
Oh wow.
I mean, I'm in the hole a little bit at the moment. But right now, you know, bull zone's still there. But ever since it went into this, the ADX is just dropping, and the directional index lines just wrapping around each other. So there's really not a direction. So to me, there's a different. Whenever you break into a bull zone or a bear zone, it could actually do two things. It could actually go bull or it could go sideways with a sideways to higher emphasis.
So just like a correction into a lower high.
Exactly. Right. So one of the things I was looking at also is just looking at this orange one right here. The 38.2 is being tested, but could drop all the way back down to the 61.8%, which matches the previous 38.2. So it could drop all the way down to this area right in here and probably stay in the bull zone. If it drops down into the bull zone and it drops down to this area, I'll probably add a little bit to dollar cost average myself a little bit right here, and then see if it'll take off from there. But the thing is if it ends up breaking into the bear zone, then I'm out. I take my loss and I just move on to the next one.
What do you have on the weekly for Ethereum? Because I'm looking at my chart right now for Ethereum, and I actually have a really big buy signal on Ethereum on the weekly specifically. One of those ones that doesn't really come around too often, but
let me see if I have this one updated. I might not have looked at this one in a while, but we'll find out. Yeah, I'm in the bull zone on this.
Right on. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah,
and it's really just right at the shallow fib.
Yeah.
Right on the bull zone. So yeah, it's a buy spot right here. Yeah. On the longer term. Now this target hit was from previous stuff. So you would have bought here, or sold there, bought back in here, you probably would have been selling again. I don't know, but on the weekly, still bull right on the shallow fib, and also on that moving average. So that 30.71 right here. So to me, buying at that 30.75 on this one made sense going into the bull zone, because there's that little bit of hopium there on that weekly. So longer term, this could support and start going up. But right now, there's just no momentum, so we're just kind of consolidating. So we'll have to see how it kind of plays out.
Well, what I'm hoping is that over the weekend, you know, it just drops a little bit lower, it shows a little bit of weak. I mean, usually when you see a move over the weekend, it'll get faded. So what I'm hoping for the general market is we see kind of a drop back down somewhere, not necessarily at the lows, but somewhere around there perhaps, and then get a quick move back up to close Sunday. That would look good for a continuation of this bounce. But you know, from what I'm looking at, man, and I think you're kind of on the same page as well. I'm not ever really gathered fully just yet. Regardless of whether or if this is going to turn out to be bullish, this whole damn market that is, it's probably going to take some time. Like you're going to be waiting for a while. I feel like the market is, and tell me if you agree with this. The market kind of has the same sentiment in some ways as some of the more, you know, quiet times, definitely like this summer, I would say. And then in like a more nasty sense, I guess, perhaps more a little bit like 2018, 2019. Do you kind of get those same feelings, or am I a little bit off base there?
No, I agree. No, I can see that happening. I can see that happening for sure. And like I said before, this is where patience comes in. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because if it's going to end up like those scenarios that you're saying, then you have to play it out, and don't try to force anything, you know, too quickly.
Yeah.
But I mean, I like what I'm seeing here. But again, you know, like you said, we got some work to do to get this thing bullish. So this bull zone right here could have been just a move up to this fib extension area.
Yeah.
And that would be it. And then we're back bearish again.
I mean, I'm looking at both Ethereum and Bitcoin right now, and I actually do think they're both going to try for some higher lows right here and continue this rally. But I just don't see that rally getting too much further than where we're currently at, and it's just hard to be bullish on this market right now.
I mean, like when you look at the weeklies, look at the weeklies. You got the bull zone still holding, and you're on a major support. You look at the weekly on here, holding major support. I mean, this one's a little bit lower, and this one's being tested a lot tougher, but they're still holding. So that you still have that, because this shallow fib takes 3 settles underneath, right? Or like the part of my, I mean, for people that know my theory, RSI zones first. Second is 3 established closes or settles underneath or above, depending on what direction of the shallow fib. And that's basically the previous shallow fib. So in other words, if this thing went into a bear zone, just say it clicked into the bear zone here, it still wouldn't be a sell unless you had 3 settles under this shallow fib. So right now that's where I'm talking about, that liminal space. But like I said, you got the support here on the Bitcoin, you got the support here on the ETH. This could be a spot. I mean,
it's a good place for a bounce at least.
Exactly. Am I buying yet? No. But it could be a spot. But I'm not a bottom picker, and I'm not a top. I think it's an act of futility. I mean, that's just me.
It's a good way to get your hands dirty.
Yeah. So I'm more of let the trend establish, and I might miss that, you know, those small percentages of the actual bottom, but I'll be way more comfortable getting in knowing that the trend's starting to establish than trying to pick it. But that's just me. I'm a conservative player, so a lot of people like to try to front run it, and that's fine. If it works for you, go for it, man. That's awesome.
But I just want to kind of highlight that first. I just want to highlight that for anyone listening. You know, a lot of the more successful traders that I know, they like to stay on the conservative side, mostly just for the simple fact that, like, look, the more money that you save yourself, the better in the long run.
I mean, you want to play another day. I mean, that's the way I look at it.
Exactly. Yeah. Live to fight another day.
Then
there's always going to be another trade. There's always going to be another one. Like the market ain't stopping, so might as well relax on that. But yeah, man, this market just kind of entices you into those things, because we get so spoiled with these major moves, man. These fucking phenomenal moves. So I feel like when things are a little bit slower like this, you get in. A lot of people get enticed, and I get enticed too. They're taking like these just trades that you probably shouldn't be taking, and
oh yeah,
that's.
I mean, I've been
And
taking
that's
some old trades. Like
yeah.
I did. I had a real good bull zone on near a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, man. I've been watching that
I
one as well. I don't trade it, but you
made
like it,
great
huh?
trade on that.
Yeah.
I'm already
So
out. I already hit my target. I'm just done.
nice
So
one. So
so
you
just
you
little
dabble
things
in
like
the
that,
you dabble in the shitcoins, you dabble in the altcoins, yeah?
Yeah. In my Patreon group, there's a whole bunch of people in there, so they
Ah, right on.
they're always throwing coins out. So
Okay.
so I'm
Okay.
charting the coins for them, and if it looks like a nice bull zone setups,
Yeah.
I'll jump in and take it and
Sweet.
run with
Is there
it.
anything else on your radar right now? Anything that you're kind of having a
Um,
bit of a glass on?
yeah, the only other one I have at the moment was let me find it here. I got like 10 billion charts.
Remember last time we spoke, just offhand, we were looking at, I think, Polygon Matic. That one was beautiful,
Yeah,
man.
actually, that's the one I
Yeah.
was pulling
Oh,
up.
there we go.
I'm actually in on this one, and I don't know if I haven't looked at it
Nice.
this morning. Um, do do do. Yeah, I actually bought. It's sort of like the Ethereum trade. It's like I got in right here, and it's dropped down, and we're still in the bull zone. So it really hasn't broken to the bearish yet, but I have bought. I did buy a little bit of Matic on here at this threshold, so I'm a little bit in the hole on this one, but I'm playing it out, see if the bull zone holds out. The only other place I would buy when you have the threshold like this, and you start the fib here, and that's the high so far, and of course it's way below the shallow fib. It's breaking down below these moving averages, which makes me a little nervous. But when you look at the extension, let me just highlight it here. This level right here, this extension, that to me, if I wanted to add to my position, if it gets into this fib extension, which it actually touched on there a little bit yesterday, 4 hours ago, it touched in there a little bit. So as this bull zone holds and this fib extension holds, that could be a spot where you would buy to add to your dollar cost average, if you'd want to kind of average it out a little better. I didn't buy yet, but that would be a spot based on my system. It either holds and it cha-ching and you make money, or if it breaks into the bear zone, then you just take that little bit of a loss. Wouldn't be too much, a little bit of a percentage, but that's what I like about it. You take small percentage losses and then long trade, and then really nice trend change or trend percentages. But right now that's where we're at. I got a little bit of Matic. I traded the near. I can show you what I was showing on the near real quick. That one actually launched out pretty good. I actually got out probably a little early, and everybody's like, "Oh, you got out early," and I'm like, "I don't give a shit. I made money."
It's the moon or nothing, man.
No, you got to take it when you can. Follow I just follow my system. So when my system tells me to get the hell out, I got out. So right now, if you're playing this one, it went into the bull zone right here, on this candle, or right on this point. Now this is how the system works. Right here is your threshold. Breaks into the bull zone right here. And what I do on the ADX is, where do I start my fib for the next level? I always go back from the threshold and I look back to where the crossover, the directional index lines were. And then I follow over and I look for that first positive period over period change on the ADX, which is the black line. And that point right there gives me the start of my fib. So that's where my psychology change is. And that's where I want to start my fib going forward. So when I'm looking at this, so when this broke into the threshold, you're buying right here, dipped down a little bit, but it started to take off. So my first buy here was at this point. My first sell was the top of the extension at 1945, which hit right there. on this candle. So it hit right at this point. So I made that nice little quick trade. And now if you're playing it and it made the high and it dipped right down into this point and hit at this shallow fib right here, you're actually back long again, with the next target being the 200% at 2208. So if you're back in long, this move to the upside here would be the next level to watch for on this move to the upside. So that's where I'm kind of on this at the moment. I did not buy near here because I was busy, but and I didn't have any orders sitting in there. But that's how the system kind of works. If it goes up to this, if you're at this high, you would have bought right here and then traded it again if you wanted to, or you could stay long or whatever. But the next one would be here, and you'd be buying right at this point, and then you got the 22. So that's how it works. And the bull zone's looking pretty good. Momentum's looking good. Nice little move to the upside, and the extensions come from this high to low. Actually, move it up a little bit. But once another thing, if you guys are ever looking at, once this makes a new high like this, and you look at the extensions, keep in mind that once you get 3 consecutive settles above the 141, and so far we have not done that, but when that happens, you have a really high probability it goes to the 200%. Just go back and kind of back test that. It's pretty interesting on how high probability that happens. But you need to get 3 consecutive settles above that 141. Like, again, we only had 1, maybe 2 settles above it. All the other settles are underneath, but you need 3 of them. And if you get 3 consecutive, that 200 is a really nice look. So just throwing that out there as a nice little tidbit, but that's where I'm at on near. Really, that's all I have. I've been waiting. I bought the Ethereum, and I've just been kind of holding that. I have not bought
your
any
Ethereum
more.
actually is well, at least Bitcoin's printing a bullish engulfing on the 4 right now and got some hidden bullish divergence going on. So Ethereum probably pulls maybe even through here, actually. Now that I look at
the one thing I like about Bitcoin right now is the bottom of this bull zone line right here, where it touched right here on the RSI. That coinciding with, if you just take just the general low and high fib of this latest run, being in this zone right in here, and this holding and bouncing right here could be a nice little sign. I wouldn't buy off of it, but I like an
early warning of reversal.
Exactly. So that's what I'm kind of watching.
Gotcha. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So that's where I'm at on these. So right now, all I have is Matic and ETH, and I traded out my near, and I've been waiting on Bitcoin. I got a lot of dry powder ready to go. But I'm just waiting. I just got to be patient and wait for the right signals.
Hell yeah.
That's where I'm at.
Sweet, man. If you got some more time, do you want to do a little bit podcast style, just chatting?
Yeah. I got a little more time. I got about 10 more minutes. Is that cool?
Yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, so I think it'd be super interesting for people and also for myself as well. Do you have like any hard set rules? Or I'm sure that you do have some hard set rules, but what are like your top ones when it comes to trading? Like, what is just, hey, I never do this no matter fucking what, because it just doesn't end well, that kind of stuff.
Really, if you have a strategy or some type of plan that's in place, and mine's the threshold. If the threshold, if I'm confident and it's back tested, and I really like my bull and bear zones, and I really do on Bitcoin and Ethereum and some of these larger coins, because I've tested them and they work really well. If the signal hits, do it.
Yeah.
Just don't say, well, Twitter's saying this, and and all this news is coming out, and all this kind of stuff that plays with your brain. Stick to the plan. I mean, sometimes it's really hard to do. Like on near, for instance, I got out at 1950 and the thing shot up past 20,
Right.
So,
right.
But my system told me to sell there. That's where I should sell. So I sold. Yeah. I didn't wait. When everyone and their brothers go like, oh, near's going to the moon, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Now, could I have gotten a better trade? Yes. But
you can always get a better
trade. It could always get it could always reverse on you, and the next thing you know, you're losing 5% when you could have made
Yeah.
a percentage. So
Yeah.
that to me is, once you have something established and you're confident in it, just do what you say you're going to do. That's really my main thing. And as long as I do that, I'm emotional free. I'm 50 years old and I still have hair. So like, you know what I mean? Like it's less stress. So
Haven't
that's
even
that.
grade either. That's insane.
Well, it's getting there, but it's
Jesus,
but
man.
but like that to me is like,
Mm.
it keeps the emotion out, and it really helps you stay focused on what you really are trying to accomplish, and
Yeah.
whatever those goals are. I don't know. Everybody's got different ones, so
Right on.
hopefully I
On that
answered what
topic,
you asked. But
oh yeah, man, that's actually quite useful. It always coincides with just everything that I always hear from someone who's actually a verified trader, of which you are a verified trader, in the sense that, look, you have your fucking strategy, you back tested it, you know the statistics around it, you just fucking play it and, let the chips fall where they may. And again, man, Bitcoin's actually, hey, looks like we might actually have a little bit of a higher low in the making right here. Also on that topic, because you kind of mentioned it for a second, and I always love talking about this. What do you put any weight into the news, or do you spend your time on Twitter? How do you kind of navigate that whole thing? Just because for me, I always feel like Twitter it's like an enticing thing. You always kind of want to be looking at it, but it doesn't serve you pretty much at all. So I'm curious how you kind of get around that, because I think you're a little bit more active on Twitter than myself.
yeah, I'm active on Twitter
Mhm.
based on, I look at that stuff as entertainment.
Right.
It's an
Okay.
entertainment value to me. When I watch CNBC and listen to all those blowhards, it's entertainment to me.
Yeah.
Do I
Yeah.
do I care what they're saying? Not really, but I'd like to stick in the news, and like, in case I go to a party and want to, socialize with people,
Right
and just,
on.
you got to know what's
Sounds like
going
a
on,
fun
right?
party, man.
No, but you got to know what's going on. You know
I
what I
know,
mean?
I know, I know what you mean.
But when it comes to the trading aspect, I don't give two shits about the news ever.
Right,
Um,
right.
so so in other words, the way I approach things is, uh, I go into my technical analysis in a vacuum
Mhm.
the best I can.
Right.
Everyone's got bias, and you try to reduce the bias as much as you can, and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Because I could make you a chart extremely bullish. I can make you one extremely
Yeah.
bearish,
Yeah.
but you got to have stuff that back it up. So
Mhm.
my indicators are backing up what I'm saying, so that kind of helps bring that to
Right.
light. But for me, news, I I do everything technical in a vacuum, and then once I'm done with my analysis, then I open the floodgates of the fundies out there, the fundamental guys, what's going
Right.
on chain and all those kind of things. Then I kind of see, does it kind of go with what I'm looking at? And if it matches up, that's good. That gets a little bit more confidence that maybe it's in the right
Mhm.
direction, those kind of things. Um, if it's really given us a really strong case the other way, maybe I'll go back and look at some things, or that kind of thing. But it's really technicals first, fundamentals second for me. News, not even a third. Like, I don't even give a shit what's happening in the news. Like,
It's
to
like
me,
watching Netflix for you.
yeah, 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 basically.
Right.
So the main thing I look at when you're talking about news is, if the news factor is large enough, I will see it in my indicators. So in other
Right.
words, if the news comes out and the market moves, does it move enough to break me out of one of my zones? If it doesn't, I don't care. It's still in my
Mhm.
zone. So that's the way I approach it. I look at it as entertainment value. Now I like Twitter because I kind of like to find people that know what they're talking about. I found you, like,
Yeah.
in time, I like to find guys that actually know what they're doing, so I can talk shop with them like we're doing right now. Uh, but also my main focus on Twitter is really just to educate and to help others. I've been doing this a long time, so I like to bring my wisdom to others. Not that I'm like this
Yeah.
perfect guru or anything, but I'm like, I have a nice tool, and I feel like it could help others in their strategies, and that's what I'm here for. I don't need it. I'm doing it more for fun because I enjoy it.
Mhm.
I'm passionate about TA, and I like to take that passion and just kind of help others. That's just the way I'm wired, I guess. But
It also helps yourself too. I mean, I know for myself, when I started doing my videos on YouTube, I was already successful, but I became a much better trader just doing that because I had to explain things to people, you know, who
Oh
might not had any experience at all, and it's just deepened my understanding of my
yeah,
own tactics.
absolutely. No, I agree. And another thing is having a community of people. Um, I learn from others.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been doing this a long time, but people look at things in different ways. And my whole goal is like, if someone can take this theory that I have and better it and look at
yeah,
it and go, well, why don't you do this? And like, look how much better it
yeah.
does with
They
this.
can add
I
something
would
to it.
love it.
Yeah,
That would be absolutely insane.
yep.
That's the main thing. If you could take something that someone else is doing and make it better, why not? And then,
Yeah.
learn from it. I learn from a lot of people every day. And this is the way it goes. It's fun.
Right on. Right on, man. I'm just looking at Bitcoin right now
No,
because I'm
no, that's
wondering
fine.
where my eyes are going, and I keep on looking at this one. It is starting to look like, hey, this might be the higher low you're looking for, man.
Yeah,
Kind of like
and
it.
another thing is, if it's going to go up, why we just talk on podcasts, and we're just going to talk all fucking day.
Well, you know you're always invited here, man. It's always a pleasure to speak with you, but I don't want to eat up your time too much. I know regular markets are actually having quite a bit of a day right now, and I know that you're trading that too. I just watch them for now, but man, I'm just looking at like NAVs and E-mini futures for SPY, and ooh, baby, this one looks like it's just about ready. But man, I'm you know, I can't leave you without asking this question just because it's right on the top of my mind right now.
Hey, no
But
problem.
one of the things that I noticed when I came from traditional markets to Bitcoin specifically is that Bitcoin just seems to trade a lot more technically, and I wouldn't dare say that it's easier. But I do think that technical signals and technical indicators do seem to work a little bit better on Bitcoin just in general with like classic charting principles. Do you kind of have the same experience there?
I do. Not that you can't use TA in all markets.
Yeah.
Commodities. Stocks, whatever you're looking at, futures, options. Whatever.
Right. Right.
Um, but I feel like Bitcoin is in that same category at the moment as like an FX market,
Yeah,
or
yeah, exactly,
like
exactly.
like in other words, it's a market that like if you go into any type of currency, and you can look at Bitcoin as a possible
Mhm.
currency, I guess. But like when you look at an FX market, there's so many different fundamental variables that go into an economy of some
Right.
country to figure out what in the hell is going on with their currency, that there's, in order to model that from a fundamental supply demand type model,
Yeah, forget it.
there's so many inputs that it's ridiculous. So I
Mm.
think people lean toward the technical side of things
Yeah.
and analyze markets in that way. And I feel like Bitcoin's kind of in that category at the moment,
Mhm.
because there's so many different variables. It's global. It could have so
Right.
many different things on chain, off chain, all this different stuff going on, that it's hard to really build a fundamental model around it and get this
Right.
linear
Right.
relationship and all this other fair value and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. I mean, there's no
Um,
earnings report, there's no like CEO, there's no fucking conference calls. I hate that bullshit when I traded traditional markets that just
yeah,
would wreck
exactly, exactly.
everything.
So,
So
so that's why I feel like
it's
it works. Yeah, I feel like it works because it kind of is in that category for me. And
right.
FX has always worked really well in technicals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's why I feel like it's working pretty well. Not that this doesn't work in traditional markets. It does, but it also has a little bit of, just a little bit of tweaks to it. Like
Yeah.
like
More nuance.
like the 61.8% level becomes a little bit more important than the shallow fib
Mhm.
in traditional markets for me, based on the zones that I build for them. So there's slight, the system and thinking's the same, but there's slight tweaks that you got to do to it based on what kind of market you're in.
Right.
But crypto and FX and all those kind of markets, the shallow fib is a really key one for me that I have found on my back testing. So that's where I'm at on that. So I don't know.
Beautiful.
You kind of see the same thing, kind of FX kind of look.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Forex. The reason why I like Forex just in general is because with Forex, you don't get, it's very difficult to get attached to your fucking trade on like the euro dollar, for example. Whereas cryptos, you always have that in the back of your mind where it's like, oh shit, this could be the one where it goes to the moon, and you always, you always have to kind of stop yourself from that, of course.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I find that Bitcoin trades very similar to Forex, and yeah, you need to be aware of some of the economic events here and there, but for the most part, if you're just watching the charts, you're going to be fine, or mostly fine, I would say. Without all of that bullshit with earnings reports and just having like people that can say something and then things just go off the rails. That always bothered me with traditional markets, because I mean, right now it just seems like the whole game is about the Fed. So to me, it's like I'm not an insider in the Fed, and yeah, I can play technical levels, but my edge is just diminished there, and I could do so much more elsewhere. So that's kind of the way that I look about it. Anyways,
Yeah,
man,
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to eat up any more of your time. I know that you just about have to go by now, so I want to let everyone know where to find you. Of course, we will have the links in the description below, but it is at FiboSwanny on Twitter, and I believe TradingView as well. Is that right?
Yeah,
Same handle?
yeah. FiboSwanny is what I go at on TradingView, and then FiboSwanny.com is my
Yeah,
website.
right. And we'll have all of that in the description below. And then also, Swanee, you have your own group. So I'd definitely suggest checking out that if you think any of this is valuable or useful, which I certainly think it is. And
Yeah.
I think we'll leave it right there, man. We'll have you back whenever you want, man. And with that
All right.
said, take care. And thank you for listening.
All right, man. Thanks a lot.